Founded in 1971, the Libertarian Party is currently the third largest party in the United States of America. In this video, we'll do a brief overview of the Libertarian Party's beliefs and electoral performances over the years. As a Libertarian Party, the party believes in reducing the overall size of the United States government and the various state governments. This not only includes lowering taxes and lowering spending, as is quite normal amongst right-wing parties across the developed world, but also trying to limit the overall ability of the government to tell you what to do, i.e. they don't believe there should be a ban on homosexual marriage because the government shouldn't have anything to do with that. They don't believe in making things like weed illegal because if someone, a responsible adult, wants to take a drug, they should be allowed to, that sort of thing. This is typically what separates them from other small government parties and from the Republicans in the United States. They also seek to withdraw the United States from any foreign entanglements. And by foreign entanglements, I don't just mean the sort of wars they fight in the Middle East. Many libertarians want to withdraw from things like NATO and the UN even, because they see it as a way which the US government is kind of dragged into having to be bigger, and they have to tax more so they can spend money and do all the stuff that these organizations require. Now, despite being the third largest party in the US for over a decade, they've only actually ever had 10 people elected to office, which is almost always state office, and have never had anyone elected to Congress. They have, however, recently gained a seat in the House of Representatives when Justin Amash defected from the Republican Party to the Libertarians in April of 2020, while planning to run to be the nominee of the Libertarian Party for the United States presidential election in the same year. Like Justin Amash, many other prominent Libertarians are former Republicans, including the last-time presidential candidates, Gary Johnson as the president one and Bill Weld as the vice presidential candidate, who were both formerly Republican governors. Johnson actually did quite well by United States third-party standards, getting 1.2 million votes, which was 0.99% of the vote in 2012, and 4.4 million votes in 2016, which was 3.27% of the vote, which is pretty good for United States third-party candidate. For a brief point in the 2016 campaign, Johnson was actually polling at 11%. However, he wasn't able to qualify for the debates, and he was hurt when he made gaffes like not knowing what Aleppo was while it was being constantly bombed by the Russians. Although, as a libertarian, this makes sense, as he doesn't really have to pay attention to anything outside of the United States. Now, the fact that so many of the high-ranking libertarians are former Republicans has its strengths and weaknesses. I guess its strength is that people kind of know who they are, like Gary Johnson was quite well known in New Mexico where he had been a governor, and therefore the vote percentage was quite higher there. However, the problem with this is that in a tight election like in the 2016 cycle, many Republicans who were thinking about voting for Johnson because they really didn't like Trump ended up voting for the Republicans anyway because they thought if only Republicans were voting for the Libertarians, it would split the Republican vote and therefore allow Hillary Clinton and the Democrats to have won the election. This next bit is just personal opinion, but I think another weakness of the Libertarian Party is that they don't concentrate enough on going for lower state offices where they actually have a viable chance of winning. The only time you seem to hear about them is during the presidential cycles, and they're going to really struggle in a presidential cycle because it's a winner-take-all office that the entire country is voting in. This stands in stark contrast to third parties in the United Kingdom, where we also have a voting system that makes it very hard for them to crack in. But what they tend to focus on is they tend to focus on winning local elections and councils and try and take over as many local councils as they can. That demonstrates that they can actually win races in a certain area, and it makes more people likely to vote for them in a parliamentary race. And then because our parliament essentially works the way that the United States House of Representatives works, you can build up enough councils inside a parliamentary zone that it actually looks like you have a chance of winning. Unlike the Libertarians, when they're running for the president, everyone knows that they can't actually win. Whereas if they put more of their energy into going into offices like state senators, where they stand a bit of a chance, particularly if they went in, say, small government red states where the Democrats don't have a huge presence, they might actually have a chance of taking those offices, and then the more you show in a certain state that you can win offices, then you can try and go for Congress and president and etc. Now, as you might be able to tell by my accent, I'm British, so if I've got any of that wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. It's possible that the Libertarians do try and win a lot of these races, and do try quite hard. I just don't see it because I'm, well, across an ocean. So that was a brief overview of the United States Libertarian Party. I'm hoping to make these videos a bit more regular now that we're all locked in quarantine, so if anyone has any ideas for a topic, feel free to drop them in the comments.